Hello guys, I'm going to talk you through my piece Chasing Marrakesh, which I've written for Paul Thomson's competition. And before I dive into the piece, I actually want to show you that you can read all of the patch names on the side here. So if you want to try some things out for yourselves, you can feel free to do so, since you can read all of the patch names. And with some tracks, you will actually see the processing that I've used to get the sound I wanted. So, scales. Which scales did I use? There are basically two scales that I used, and some chromaticism got into the first scale especially. The first scale is the double harmonic scale, which is often associated with the Middle East, and it sounds like this. We all know it, and its association with the Middle East. And the piece is called Chasing Marrakesh, so it's obvious. The second scale is actually a more exotic scale, since it's the half-tone whole tone scale, which actually has 8 notes instead of 7, and it sounds like this. It's very interesting sounding, and it's one of my favorite motifs. The piece is also written in mostly 6/4 signature and in either C sharp minor or C sharp double harmonic or D flat double harmonic. Either way, it's the same note. I won't go into a lot of details, since you can actually read most of what is here, or most of the patches that I actually used, but I'm going to pay attention to some special things I think that I've done. So first is grouping instruments. One of my favorite groupings is actually in this part here. I just solo it. As you can hear, we have the strings playing normally, the double bass down here, violins and violas up there, but the cello are actually playing those repetitions. And I chose to do that because the percussion comes in at that point. So the cello are actually reinforcing the djembes, which are off to the sides and don't occupy that low space, or those low frequencies. So I think that's a very interesting effect. And then we have this shrill LCO string sound up here, which I found perfect for this application. Another sound I really like is, I would say, the solo part that comes right after this, where we have Oliver Arnold's Sonar Rhodes or Noise Stab and the lap soft piano playing alone. And the interesting thing here is I didn't use any special piano for those elongated notes. I just used a pad, which sort of rises from the piano note. So I can actually repeat the same motif without it sounding too boring, I'd say. The only thing that is actually special then is my favorite motif part. I'll just play it first. So it's special for multiple reasons. First, of course, the motif itself. We have this half-tone whole tone scale, which starts on the bass note, and the interesting thing is that this is on all the eighth notes, while at the same time the pianos are playing another rhythm, I wouldn't say necessarily a counter rhythm, but they're playing dang, 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 dang. I can just blend them in as well. So you see. I think in when all the instruments play together, you don't really hear that, but it adds to the overall shape of the sound. And we have those low strings here, bum bum bum, which are being doubled by the basses here. So it gives the low that very big sound. And of course, the percussion is only adding to that. I especially like those 2 beats of the bass drum after the actual accent, I'd say. So that's this part actually. It's very simple, but which takes it a little step further is actually this part down here, because it foreshadows what's about to come. It's this thing. So I get this sound, so I get already familiar with it, and after the break, I actually made a beat. Since I'm not very good with samplers, I just put the audio files in here, and well, you know, I just made the beat by hand. So it's not a complicated beat, as you can hear, but the thing is that the strings just give it that variety. But now we get to the interesting part, because the Paul Thomson pad actually has a trick up its sleeve, I noticed. Well, maybe not here. Here, just try to blend those 2 sounds together. But if you use the Paul Thomson pad and actually pitch shift it, I'll just play a C major chord. Not all of the notes actually pitch shift. So you have the C and that other chord. So you have 2 chords at the same time, which I use for this effect. I'll just zoom in so you can see it. It's very subtle, but if I turn off the beat and the strings, you might be able to hear it. It's just a very subtle thing, but in my ears it makes quite a difference actually. And now, while all this is going on, especially the beat, we have this going on all the noise steps going on the second beats. And we also have orbs actually, with one of my favorite pad sounds. Yeah, I really like this part, even without the strings. But as you could hear, there's not a lot of, I would say a lot of instrument or a lot of things that contribute to this sound. It's mainly the percussion, well, the beat, strings, and a few of those synthesizers, or keys as I call them. So now we come to the interesting part, which is in the second half of the strings. If we just try and dissect what well, if I just try and dissect what I did there, is if you paid attention, the main theme, or what I played down here in the strings is this figure actually gets repeated here. So I take this part as a starting point to go to the main violin statement, I'd say. Now there's something interesting happening here, because the low strings are actually mimicking the kick drum now. So now it's again that dancing around the harmony. So what you can actually do, I mean, I could have just gone on with this structure, but I decided to give it 3 measures and break it up into that, you know, only eighths on all the strings. Here's my favorite part, because there's 2 interesting chords happening. It's mainly in here, well, up there. If you pay attention again, you will actually notice that it's the same motif that we have in my favorite motif part. So here. Just a little variation to it. And with those chords in the background, let me see which ones these are. I'm actually using one piano book library, the Christensen Octave Cascade. And the interesting thing about this harmony is that I'm using 2 chords that are a tritone apart from each other. So it gets that, you know, not really uplifting, but special sound, for lack of a better term. And at the same time, that glitchy sounds playing in the background. So now at the end we have the favorite motif again, but with the pedal note, which is played by the fingerstyle bass. And the very interesting part is, now I don't only have, you know, a rhythmic figure in the low strings and that melody, but I actually have chords. If you take a look at those, as I said, I'm not the best with harmony, but these chords are played in the trills actually, so in the violas. So here. To my ears, it just sounded very interesting. So when you add all the rest to it, it sounds even more, even more interesting. It's a little bit too much for my computer since I'm running the screen recording software as well. But one other thing is those little effects that help with transitions. Because if I just mute these, and this helps with the transition from the actually established parts to the new one. Along with this sound, This is actually very interesting since I sampled or I recorded my local subway and it has this high-pitched B. So I just took the pitch shifter, I pitch shifted it 2 tones downward or 2 semitones downward, did a little bit of processing as you can see, and in my opinion it's a very good sound. Sounds like a synthesizer. So that's basically it. If you have any more detailed questions, just ask them down in the comments below. I will read them, I will reply to you. And what I want you to take away from this video is, at first, you can actually pitch shift Paul Thomson's vocal pad to get very interesting chords, very interesting sounds. If you have a microphone at home, just record yourself doing some silly stuff like that barn sound, for example, which is actually very, very hideous. And experiment with it. Maybe you can do harmonies with it or do whatever you please. You can cut it, etc, etc. And blending different libraries if you have them, because without the performance samples, fluid shorts, this wouldn't have that driving factor I would have desired. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.